If I could ask everybody to take their seats. Move on to the...
Yeah, take your time.
She travels all the time. She travels, I have, because you get free boarding there.
Treadmill.
She got
Elliptical. Our next item on the agenda, which we carried over from yesterday, is an update on the task force on workforce job creation and a strong economy. It's item 3.1 in your binders. Chancellor Harris.
Thank you, President Baum, members of the board. It really is a pleasure to bring you an update on your task force. And let me tell you, these folks have been hardly at work. Heartily at work over the last several months. They've held probably 20 meetings up and down the state involving more than probably nearly 1,000 Californians in providing input. The task force has met several times and has more meetings scheduled, and they will be back to you in September with their report. But it's a pleasure to provide you an update today, and I'll turn it over to Vice Chancellor Quinn-Liven to introduce her colleagues.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Harris, President Baum, and members of the board. So our task force is nicknamed the Strong Workforce Task Force, and the Chancellor asked us to spend a little time, given that we have a few new board members this morning. Yesterday, we made tremendous progress growing the number of bachelor's students in the state, but this board also recognized there's an equal gap for 1 million more middle-skilled workers. And as I mentioned yesterday, when we talk about middle skill, these are the careers that are trained and require more than a high school degree, but less than a bachelor's degree. This is actually the area of greatest growth in jobs in the state, and California is taking 20% longer to fill these jobs than other states. So if you saw the importance of this when we got together last year at the September retreat, which began the discussion to commission this important task force. As you see here, California needs 1 million more middle school credentials, associate's degrees, certificates, and industry valued credentials. So AA certificates and industry valued credentials. You had tasked the task force to consider strategies and recommend policies and practices that engender flexibility, regional responsiveness, partnership with industry, and student portability as ways to close this 1 million more middle skill gap. And so today, what I wanted to do was to bring actually the leadership of this task force that were hand-selected by the Chancellor to really undertake this very heavy lift. And I also want to acknowledge that this has been a joint venture with all of my colleagues and other vice chancellors. So this has been an agency-wide effort. But I'd like to introduce to you so that they can speak in their own words their experience with the task force. And they will be coming back to you in September to bring their recommendations. So if you could introduce yourselves, your day job, and why you think you were selected by Chancellor Harris for this task force, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Sunny Cook, and my day job is I'm president at Maricosta College in North San Diego County, and I've been there since January. Before that, I was president at Grossmont College in East San Diego County for about 8 years, and I've been wondering why I was selected to be on this task force since Chancellor Harris called me in November. But I think it's partly due to the fact that I have about 20 years of experience in community colleges, and I have the luxury of having served as a faculty member for 10 of those years in both transfer programs as well as CTE programs. So I taught in biotechnology and coordinated that program, and I've worked in multiple states in doing workforce development and economic development. And I will just tell you, I sat in the Texas borders and I picked off companies from California for about 10 years. And that was pretty easy work to do at that time because we had an economic strategy in the state that focused on sectors statewide, not so much regions, which is what we're having to do in California, is focus on regions. But our state had an economic strategy about 6 sectors that we were going to bring into the state. And all of the dollars in the state and training were developed around those priority sectors that the state has selected. So I have a lot of experience in doing this work in other states, and now I have the luxury to sit in California trying to keep our businesses and industries supplied with the workforce that they need and to stay in California where they can be vibrant members of our industry and our economy. So I've overseen the whole gamut of credit workforce training, not-for-credit workforce training, contract training, grant-funded training, and sat on the workforce investment boards and economic development boards for a number of years. And so I think that's the experience that I bring, is experience in and out of the state doing workforce development for a long time.
Good morning, Chancellor Harris, President Baum, and members of the Board of Governors. My name is Lynn Shaw, and I'm the faculty member, one of the 4 faculty members on the task force, and I'm one of the co-chairs. I currently teach electrical technology at Long Beach City College, and I also am the faculty union president. It's my last month because I'm going on sabbatical. I'm also the Regional Community College Consortium Chair for Los Angeles and Orange County. And I have a very interesting background. I might not appear this way, but I've been a miner, a steel worker, a longshore worker, and I'm a union electrician. So I live and breathe career and technical education. And I do this work because it helps our students, especially those 28-year-olds who come in my class who work at Starbucks and are looking for some reskilling, or the mid-career person that's coming back and looking for upskilling. And we need to keep up with the ever-changing industry, and I think the community colleges can do that and are doing that. I want to change the conversation about CTE. I want no one to ever say again CTE versus academic, because career technical education is academic. That's one of the things I'd like to see out of the task force. And I'm very honored to be chosen by Chancellor Harris, even though he called me one morning and I thought it was a joke.
Good morning. My name is Tim Rainey. I'm the Executive Director of the California Workforce Investment Board. I started out doing workforce development as a Senate staffer, a member from Orange County. I was assigned to that person. I was a Democratic caucus staffer, assigned to members from marginal districts, and that particular senator wanted to take on workforce development because it was one policy issue, unlike a lot of others, that really bridges labor and business and economic development and social services. So I really got connected to this opportunity to bridge economic development and social services, education, and training. Because if you do it right, you create talent pools for business that are growing, they're driving regional employment, you get people access to jobs, they get jobs, they spend money in the community, that primes the pump. So it's a place where all this stuff comes together. It's a very rich field. I moved from there to the AFL-CIO, State Labor Federation, because I really wanted to see at the ground level how to connect education and training between business and labor, and brokering partnerships among colleges and community-based organizations and local workforce boards. Did that for about 7 or 8 years. Then was appointed by Governor Brown to run the State Workforce Investment Board. And I am really honored to have this opportunity to serve. I think the Chancellor chose me because he needed diversity. And probably other reasons. But what I think primarily, we're at the point now of reinventing the federal job training law. Used to be the Workforce Investment Act. Now it's the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. There are 49 local workforce boards in the state. They're spending about $500 million a year, but they're trying to leverage another $4 billion education, training, and employment services to get people jobs with those employers that are again driving regional employment. Those industries are driving regional employment. So this is an opportunity to bring that world together more closely, better aligned with the community college system, which is our primary training provider of the current and the future workforce.
So you can tell that we bring varied experiences to this work, and we're all very dedicated to this work and very honored to be a part of this, but we also have a sense of humor, so we apologize if we offend. We don't intend to. Let me tell you a little bit about our task force's work. So you have used the task force model in the California Community College system twice before recently. One was the baccalaureate task force that we just convened, and also the student success task force that was convened probably 3 or 4 years ago to do the recommendations that came out of that work to focus on student success. So this is another use of that task force model. I will tell you the piece that's very different about it, that we hear about all the time, is the time frame that we operate within. And so the task force itself began meeting in January and will continue to meet through July. The This is light speed for California community colleges. And yet what we hear from our business and industry partners is a year-long process such as this one to bring you recommendations in September is an eternity for business and industry. And half of our task force members are made up of business, industry, community organizations, and so forth. So it was really a compromise position between our normal couple of years worth of task force work to what business and industry would like us to do, which is work at probably 4 times the speed that we're working at. And I think we've arrived on a good time frame, and as Chancellor Harris would say, everybody is unhappy with it, so that means we probably selected the right time frame, which is a compromise between what our system is used to and what business and industry is really demanding of us to do. This is important work. We have an opportunity right now while the nation is facing, responding and focusing on community colleges at this moment in time to help the national economy as well as our state is focusing on this work. And so we want to take the opportunity to bring those stakeholders to the table. The nice part about this task force, though, is even though the task force itself did not meet until January, we started with conversations that were of the field, people within the field, faculty, administrators, deans, vice presidents, folks in our community that have been doing this work for a long time with ideas and grassroots thinking about what the task force should consider. What were the hurdles and challenges before the colleges, and what ideas do folks have? And that really was about 14 different regional conversations that were held all over the state. 3 of them were sponsored specifically by the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges and provided opportunities for probably 800 or so folks within our system to be able to voice ideas and concerns that were all documented and served as ideas for the workforce to consider. We then held a series of 6 strong town hall meetings. That was really where now we were hearing from our external partners, our business, industries, chambers, workforce boards, and those meetings were held across the state, and you can see from February to May. The task force meetings, we've already had 3 of our 5 meetings. We've met in May, we met last week. We will meet again in June and July. The work is going incredibly productively and effectively. And we will work through the summer and bring back to you recommendations that we will hope you will consider and support in September of 2015. Do I do the next one? So let me just show you a picture of the regional conversations that we've had. You can see just large groups of folks, 60, 80, 100 people in a room that were facilitated conversations about, the focus is really about identifying and addressing that 1 million skills gap, about keeping our community colleges dynamic and responsive to business and industry needs, and also bringing new partners in ways that we have not worked with before, bringing new partners and new resources to this important work of workforce development. So you can see the locations where those meetings were held and hosted at our colleges for the most part.
And as you can see, this is just a sampling of the partners who've been involved in this process. A lot of folks are coming together who care deeply and believe deeply in the community college system, both for, as I said, economic development, but also for economic and regional equity and social mobility. So through this process, we're discussing, even debating in some cases, very respectfully debating. 1, how we deepen working relationships with employers, as Sonny said, and industry to address skills gaps, and 2, how we provide sufficient funding for career technical education to match employer needs and employer demand, both at the state and regional levels, and 3, how we make sure employers and workers have relevant, timely skills training and education, so that both employers and workers are competitive.
So these are the themes that we're working with, and these came from these conversations across the state with our internal and external partners. We took all the information and kind of grouped them in these 5 groups, and the task force has been busy. We developed a summary, and we come together and we reframe it, we see if anything's missing, we talk about the ideas, we work in small groups, And there's a lot of robust discussion, and every time we meet, we bring everything back again. So there's lots of dialogue going on to determine if these are really what the field needs, what the community college system needs, what our economy needs, and people are taking it very seriously. As a matter of fact, it's not just I come to the table. We are given lots of reading to prepare. So I brought a sample of some of the papers that get written about these topics. We're also assigned books and articles, and there's a long running list on our website of when you're representing a constituent group, if an article is written in the local, the CIO regional paper about the task force, that gets on the website too. So I just wanted to take a couple of the items. So we started with workforce data and outcomes, which we thought would be the least controversial of the 5. And it's been such a great experience because everybody seems to want better data and seamless data collection systems. And I had this incident recently where I had a conversation with the director of the LA City Workforce Investment Board, you know, one of the biggest WIBs in the state or country, I guess. And he was like, Lynn, we have to have co-location of community colleges with WIBs. We need regional economic analysis. We need to use the same language for everything and define sectors the same, and we need the same LMI data. And it's like we keep getting that message from lots of different sources because faculty are saying the same thing. Administrators are saying the same thing. And so we're just trying to bring it all together in some real concrete recommendations. So another one I wanted to talk about is the funding. And this one is an upcoming one. But he left. So I was going to talk about David Morris, who is the state. Here, just step down. Oh. Okay, I'm going to talk about him while he's gone. So David and I work at the same college, and I teach in an electrical technology program, and David is an English professor. And our students have needs. They're both important, but they're vastly different. Like, how can I teach a student to wire a commercial building or this building right here without a lab? And labs cost money. And it's important that we have the equipment and services we need to make sure they get the skills they need to service our economy. So they're equally valued. An English degree is just as valued as an electrical technology degree, but they're very different. And I think that's part of what the task force is exploring, like how to recognize and honor these differences.
And I think I'm going to jump in and just add to workforce data and outcomes. I think one of the things you'll see as a phase 2 on student success is the student success metrics that we're currently using do not value all the exit points that a student has out of career technical education. So there are some students that come to us from very short sequences of courses, and right now we're not able to count those. And so that's something that you should probably expect to see as a recommendation to you in September, I would expect, is something around counting all the success points that our CTE programs are able to generate. I think around curriculum and instructors, again, around student improvement of student progress and outcomes, you'll probably see some areas of thought around valuing prior learning, competency-based education, and valuing that based on competency attainment, facilitating student portability as they move around our state or our region, making sure that they're not losing any ground as they continue their studies towards the workforce end. I think you'll see something in September about evaluating local, regional, and state curriculum processes to make sure that they are streamlined and allow our colleges to be as dynamic and responsive as possible. I think you'll see some ideas around instructors and increasing the qualified pool of instructors, making it easier for us to identify them, hire them, recruit them, retain them, develop them professionally so that we're enhancing their teaching skills while we're keeping them current in the current fields. And also around CTE pathways, I think you'll see a lot of emphasis around structured pathways that are seamless between the high schools and the community colleges. That's great work that's being done by our Career Pathways Trust grants as well. as well as drawing people in from the adult education system so that they too may access these career pathways that have multiple entry and exit points, on-ramps, off-ramps, whatever you want to call them.
So the task force, we have some pictures, and I just want to talk about the composition. Each one of these people represents a constituent group. So, for example, Craig Justice represents the Chief Instructional Officers Association. We have college presidents in the first column. We have the 4 delightful faculty. I think Julie is here. She's one of the members of the task force. And then Tony and Lionel. And then we have Molly Smith, who represents the deans. And then we have a lot of outside partners who also represent things like the Manufacturing Association, the Hospital Association. So they don't just represent one business, they represent a sector. And I think that's really important. The way the task force is structured, the dialogue has been very rich and really transparent. And I really like how anybody can bring up any idea they want, and it gets discussed and given value, including our people not on the task force. They can submit ideas for consideration. So it's been a very robust process, and I think people are taking it really seriously because as a teacher, you can kind of tell if someone's done their homework and read these documents, and people actually refer to them in the small group discussion. So I'm very impressed with our partners.
And I just would add that this has been an incredibly ambitious, open, transparent, democratic process. States around the country are grappling with these same issues that we are. But the way this is being taken on, I think, is a model for all states, all across this country. And I'm really honored to be involved in this. Its purpose is to inform. Vaughn making us read books. That's good. But through the regional meetings and the town halls and the task force discussions, it's to inform, it's to get buy-in, and it's also to get input. And all these things are being achieved through all of this work. And I guess I would just say I'm, again, very honored to be involved in such an ambitious process that I think is going to pay big, big dividends now and into the future.
So next steps are that we will work, again, the task force will meet in June and July. We have gone through 3 of those 5 bucket lists of ideas already. We are finalizing the recommendations. Every meeting we meet, we see the rolling list of recommendations. And by July, we will solely focus on all of the recommendations that have been written so far, and we'll streamline, we'll remove redundancies, we'll look at where we want to emphasize and prioritize. And then in July, we'll have certainly lots of feedback opportunities for folks. We'll take this out to town hall meetings for discussion, deliberation, ideas, and then Consultation Council will see it in August, and then you all will see it in September. So that's our timeline.
So as you can see, it's a bit of a all hands on deck in order to do this work that you've tasked us with. And Member Baca, you were at the CTE Curriculum Institute last week. Hopefully you can comment on that. Member Belansky, you've expressed interest in attending the wrap-up town hall in August. Many of you are reading along these background papers. I just wanted to share 2 closing pictures of President Baum and Vice President Estolano ambassadoring this work. I don't know if that's a real word, but yes. So here, what is so interesting to note is that this town hall, you see on Member Baum's left, he's flanked by Republican Senator Stone and Democratic Assembly Member Garcia. So you have, as Tim had mentioned, you have both the support of Republican and interest and engagement of the Republican and Democrats on this issue. And down below, Member Estolano and I were invited to speak about this work with the Southern California Leadership Group. And we're sandwiched between former governors Pete Wilson and Gray Davis. So as you can see, there's a lot of interest in this work that you've commissioned. And so I hope you feel you are have tasked us to take on significant work because it is a heavy lift, and thank you for your commitment.
Yes, thank you very much for that report, and I appreciate the efforts that have gone into this to date. I'd like to open it up for questions from the Board of Governors and then some comments. Member Reed.
The question I have about, I don't see any student involvement in this, either students that are presently in job training programs or students that have graduated from past programs. Is that part of an element to this?
So if you see on the right column in the middle, Rachel Mullen is a student in American River College and is also a veteran. And then from external stakeholders, we have Brian Burrell on the far right. He represents youth advocacy issues and actually has done a whole set of jobs tour to do focus group with students and where they're struggling in terms of getting into their a job. So we have an outside voice and an inside voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask Member Baca, who was actually on the Student Success Task Force, if there are any observations that you could share that might help. That process was very successful, and is there anything that you've identified as this task force process unfolds?
You know, I don't know that I could add anything. I mean, maybe the chancellor's in a better position to
right.
comment on that, but you know, it seems to be moving a little bit more quickly, and it seems like maybe some of the discussion that's still going to go on will bring it even much more tightly together. So I'm very impressed with what you've presented and, you know, the involvement of all the individuals. Vice Chancellor, I'm not sure about the curriculum comment that you just made. I do hope to do some work with the Academic Senate this July on a curriculum. I will be very interested in seeing that because obviously we have a process that sometimes is laboring, and it does take maybe 2 years. Maybe there's some recommendations and things that after we have sufficient dialogue that will maybe shorten that and tighten it up. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to is, and over the years, seeing the system work more closely with is labor and management, the private sector, and working those things out. Because you know, as many others in the system have had some concern with, you know, the unevenness across the state in terms of relationship with both apprenticeship programs that are driven by labor management agreements, and then the kinds of delivery that we have, and how do we coordinate that? And we won't even get into the thing about the private for-profit institutions that provide a whole range of education in this area. But you know, again, I don't have anything to add in terms of the student success. I suppose if I thought about it a little bit more, I might. But you know, those things come immediately to mind. So I mean, this is work that that was needed. You know, one of the things that I did get after we finished our work on the student success task force is, why haven't you paid attention to this other part or other parts of the institution? So, well, you know, that really wasn't the focus. We did begin with the idea of being really broad and extensive, but it just wasn't going to work out. So we had to narrow our focus, and it is what it is, with the absolute intention of doing this. And you know, I'm highly pleased that the Chancellor has taken this and really really moved it forward. The kind of work that he and his predecessor, Jack Scott specifically, have done in terms of positioning us to address these things is just, I'm just very impressed with the kind of movement, the kind of support that obviously we're getting nationally and statewide, at the state and national level in terms of the community colleges. I think certainly helps with that, because you know, it doesn't help if we're operating in a vacuum, you know, all by ourselves. So you know, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with the input, particularly of those that are outside the system. So thank you very much.
Member Shaw, and then Member Kaur.
This is my first meeting, and my name is Valerie Linshaw.
Are we related?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. But you mentioned, Ms. Shaw, Greg Irish. I just spent the last 2 decades in LA city government, and Greg Irish is in charge of the WIB there. And but I want to just pose this question to all of you. sort of what is sort of what's the striking trend or concept or idea that you've learned in the last few months?
I can take a shot. To me, it's been totally astounding that we get the same or similar messages from all the constituent groups. It's like it keeps circling back around to the same 5 buckets that we've identified. And to me, that's really amazing. I mean, I just think we're really onto something here. So for me, that's been the most striking thing. The other thing is that I'm so impressed with our external partners and the way that they're engaging. The internal partners, I just expect them to engage. But the external partners have been fantastic. You know, they were our facilitators at our last meeting for the small group work, and they were great. You know, I mean, I just think that, for me, that's right now what I'm thinking. Maybe in September I'll have something else.
Okay.
I would resonate with that. I think when we've gone out and tried to communicate about this work, we're trying to make it as transparent and accessible as possible, so we've got all the information on our websites, but we're going out to our statewide meetings, the Academic Senate plenary session, which is, I think, where you were, Member Baca, the chief instructional officers, the CEOs in the state, the deans, the occupational deans within the state. And when we present these, there's a 3 or 4 page summary of ideas that we've heard from all of these convenings, the regional meetings in the town halls. When we present them to folks, the ideas that come forward are already on the sheet. Or people say, wow, you did a transcript of our regional conversation, meaning that ideas keep being repetitive. And that I think speaks to, there are a lot of good people that have great ideas for how to solve things. And they've probably been cogitating on this for years because they've run up against stumbling blocks or hurdles. And so our goal is really to address those things, the skill gap, the responsiveness of our colleges, and bringing new resources to the table with the ideas that have really been percolating for a while. And I think that's what has surprised me. The ideas are already in our heads. It's about implementing them and helping to make them come to fruition. We're staying at the policy level, but the implementation of the work that is with our recommendations, but the implementation of that work is going to, I think, remove significant hurdles and barriers that have kept CTE faculty and programs potentially from being as responsive as they might be.
Fantastic.
Yeah, without being redundant, I hope, I agree completely. The way I kind of understood, process what Sonny said, was we don't know anything in Sacramento. We talk in abstractions, platitudes a lot of the time. We try to push down what we think works. But what this process is doing is lifting up really great practice at the ground level where vision and practice are really coming together. And it's fantastic to see that be part of a policy discussion in a really meaningful way. Because I think we're going to get better policy because we're listening to people who are on the ground actually trying to solve problems. And that's been gratifying.
Member Corr, then Member Belinsky.
Thank you. So overall, it's been really great to hear the amount of dialogue happening with the faculty members and the business and industry owners. I was just wondering how much input we've received from students. I know there is one student on the discussion, and she's non-traditional. And as Ms. Shaw said earlier, we're looking to not go CTE versus academic. You can choose both. So have you looked into, have traditional students come, have student parents come? Because I know that's the group we're targeting, and we can have discussions what, business owners want, but what are students receptive towards? And I think that's really important. So how has student input been?
I may take this in a slightly different direction. I think what we're understanding is that from our industry employers, whether we're training somebody to go to a transfer institution or whether we're training them for work, what we're hearing from our employers is that we need to embed basic skills and contextualize those basic skills into the context of where a student will go next. And we need to understand that all of our students are eventually going to be in the workforce, whether they go on to get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or they go directly to work from us. So that's not answering your direct question about parent input or student input. I think we all represent constituent bodies, so we expect the student to speak for not just herself, but students in general. As I speak for CEOs or you speak for CTE faculty, I think you've opened up an arena where I think we could seek more input. But I hope I've answered a little bit of your question.
Something I think I'd probably look into doing is encouraging more. You have 2 more meetings remaining, so encouraging more students to go and discuss, because it's really important that we get their input. So hopefully it's something I could contribute to. And also, so in the task force discussions, have you guys talked about job placement services? On my campus, we have a job placement site which help students based off the career they're going off to, what CTE program they're engaged in, what jobs would be open to them. So has that been brought up?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually had, we had a very rich and robust conversation about it last meeting, as a matter of fact.
Beautiful.
One of the things that comes up is we all believe in regional organizing and alignment of all these systems, but also that not every component of the system needs to go at employers the same way or separately. Mm-hmm. We need to sort of get one voice going to employers. So we had a really great conversation about how to get greater alignment around that organizing the outreach to employers, so we can get more work-based learning, paid internships, and placements, right? Because it's too fragmented and fractured now. We're not getting any scale around placement of students in jobs, and particularly internships and work-based learning, which is a great way to lead into a really good job and a career pathway. So yeah, we're digging right in on that question.
Because on my campus it's linked with a transfer center, and there's a job placement center, and it's been really, really effective in getting our students out there. And so I think that'd be a great idea to implement throughout.
Yes, that's a wonderful model. And to your prior point, I just wanted to put out there, preceding the task force deliberation, the external member on our task force from the Young Invincible, he organized a set of jobs tour with students. These are all student focus groups.
Okay.
And so he brought that experience and that feedback and the research paper from that into his deliberation and contributions to the workforce. But of course, everybody is invited to the deliberation, and maybe if you could help us invite more students to observe the task force meeting, it's most welcome.
Definitely.
Member Belinsky.
We were provided a document up front for reading today, and I'd like to just go through it a little bit, make some comments, and in a couple of instances say more than just a comment. But because you use the 5 themes in this document, and I do completely agree, because data seems to be such a big thing today in the community college system and throughout the state, that this whole issue of completers versus skill builders does need to get a lot of attention. We have a lot of students, as you're well saying to us, but I just want to repeat it, in CTE programs who have no intention of completing the program. They've come for 1 or 2 courses, as it says, in order to get specific skills that they're going to take back to a job setting and increase their job opportunities. So that data collection, we need to look at that very carefully about how to do that better and get that more publicized so that colleges can show, yes, we don't have that many people getting this certificate, but let me tell you how many. The other thing that's noted under curriculum, and while I agree, I hope that the second part of the statement will get attention, and that's evaluate and revise the CTE curriculum approval process. But the second part of it is needing sufficient staff to do that. And I know that this is important because even a college in my district got a grant, and they needed to produce certain courses immediately by the grant, and that wasn't possible because of the time period it takes to get courses approved. So I do agree with that, but the staffing will be there. I'm assuming that this CID system issue is for the community colleges, so that if students are moving among colleges, or CID, if I didn't say that correctly, that it's students who'd be moving among colleges could then take through the CID process of where the course really fits in someplace else they would be going. I'm assuming, and I would strongly encourage that, particularly as an articulation officer. I hope that this statement that revise the single subject equivalency regulation to allow CTE programs to hire an individual to teach one course gets a lot more scrutiny than just what that sentence says, because I could see 72 different interpretations if the State Academic Senate in fact signs off on that. 72 different interpretations of what a course in a CTE program is. So now we have in CTE program statistics, which is a math course. And we're going to now give an equivalent, because it's in that, I hope that gets more scrutiny.
Can I just intervene for a second? Actually, it was a question. What is the single subject equivalency regulation?
Well, at the moment, I don't think there is such a thing as a single subject equivalency. If a person does not meet the minimum qualifications, and we have a minimum qualification document that comes here every 2 years, and it goes through a process that the State Academic Senate runs, and for each discipline, it lists what minimum qualification degrees count to teach in that discipline. Now, if a person says, well, I don't have an exact degree that's described in the minimum qualifications handbook, but I have a comparable degree, then locally we set up different ways of going through a process to say, oh yes, you have the equivalent of that degree, so sure, you can teach in that discipline. And it's been done as best I understand, and David or Julie could correct me, but there's never been single subject equivalency, because that can get pretty dicey to say that, well, you can teach this course in the discipline, and so we're going to, and how do we keep track of that in a community college setup, that one course? So it's got some issues, and I just think that that's going to need to be looked at a little more, particularly when you say a program and what courses are in a program, and there's going to need to be a little more specificity. And again, I hope the State Senate does weigh in. And I do want to encourage, again, what you've put in here about this model curriculum for high school. I think building pathways for students is really what we should be more about, than rather than, oh, well, just any course for concurrent enrollment or dual enrollment or whatever terminology you want to use, special admission. I think that that's critical. Under the funding, it'll be interesting to hear, if this comes forward, how many people throughout the state supported this, and whether there'll be specificity, again, not just general statements about such funding, like create a weighted funding formula for CTE, which we don't have, and many people have said often we'll lose a program because the instructor retired who was running the program, and it's a high-cost program, therefore, or if you're going to institutionalize CTE enhancement funding, some specificity of what that means, how that would be done, or if you're going to create a special funding category for CTE facilities and equipment, who decides what CTE facilities are, who decides what CTE equipment is. I could see playing around with that too, as some districts would be more than willing to do to get the money. And I just will make one last comment, and it's in the regional coordination, that I would hope that there would be some help in regions where people don't do a lot of coordination, and they're not skilled at that, and therefore it just doesn't get done well. I would hope that there would be some kind of opportunity for training or workshops or whatever, and to build a real strong encouragement of colleges coming together in regions. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Member Belinsky. Did you have anything? Member Van Loon?
Yeah, so I want to first and foremost commend you guys on the work you've been doing. I think one of the more challenging aspects of the work that's being done so far is creating a mechanism to allow our institutions to respond to both rapidly changing industries as well as the proliferation of new industries. Is regional collaboration sufficient to serve as such a mechanism? And if not, where's the dialogue at regarding the ability to respond to the ever-changing landscape of our industries?
Chancellor, would you like me to take that? Or?
Go ahead.
So at the last task force meeting, Craig Justice, our Chief Instructional Officer, was on the opening panel. And a key point he made was that starting up any new program in order to respond to an emerging technology or emerging trend is highly risky. And the Chancellor talked about this yesterday. So as we think about funding, how do we lower the risk for colleges to ramp up with some of these programs, and then also acknowledge some of the ongoing costs of these programs so that a college is willing to bear the risk on behalf of the region as part of the capacity of the region. So these are, the deliberations have many variables, and we will be taking up funding at the next task force meeting.
So the last thing I wanted to say is just the process going forward. Again, we will have an opportunity to go into the recommendations in more detail at a board retreat in September. I've been consulting with the chancellor, and if everybody could keep on their calendars, we would come in the Sunday before our regularly scheduled meeting, September 20th, and spend the afternoon going over in detail, as we did with the Student Success Task Force. And if that's not on your calendar, if you don't mind, what we were talking about possibly is having, then on Monday, having the full day meeting and dispensing with a meeting on Tuesday for our staff. So if you are looking at your calendars, perhaps we do it that way and have an opportunity to go into detail. When it comes to our board then at the September meeting, I presume it would be a first reading.
It'll come in retreat in great detail, and then the recommendations would be on your regular agenda on that Monday as a first reading. As a first reading. And then there would be an opportunity for a final adoption, perhaps at the next meeting, which would be in November. One thing that we had done also with Student Success is have a public town hall meeting in San Diego, if I recall. And do we anticipate that? We're doing 2 of those in August. But where the board is, I'm talking about where the Board of Governors is getting feedback. We certainly can do something of that. And I don't know that we want to commit to doing that, or if the field feels we need to do that. I'm open to it. It was helpful for our Student Success Task Force, but I would like some advice on the feasibility of that. We did that in December of 2011 before our final adoption, I think in January of 2012. But it gave the public a chance to address the board directly in the field on the recommendations. And so I'll ask my vice president to help me think about that as a part of the process.
Okay. I mean, first thought, if you're going to do 2, Chancellor Harris, you're talking about doing 2 town halls? Or that's correct. One in New York, one in Southern California. The task force. Yeah. That's where we'll take the recommendations out to the field to make to assess any concerns that are there before we bring them forward to you. And of course, they also have to go through our consultation process in August. Yeah. So I mean, we'll talk with the vice chancellor, because we may want to just use one of those 2, just for sake of efficiency.
For the board to
actually, yeah. But we'll have to. I think you have dates already on calendar, right?
When are those August dates for the town halls?
I believe they're August 25th and 27th. One in San Francisco, hosted by the Bay Area Council, and the other one will be in the LA area, hosted by the Southern California Leadership Group.
So we'll be doing the Los Angeles one.
Right.
Well, that'd be the group that met.
Yeah,
with
Southern
previously,
California Leadership
right? Yeah, sure.
Council.
That's the one where Governor Davis, Governor Deukmejian, and Governor Wilson co-chair. Okay. Any questions about the process as it's going to continue forward? But I do want active board review and input and consideration of the recommendations that the task force will be making. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll go now on to item 3.7 on an update and demonstration of online professional development clearinghouse.
Thank you, President Baum, members of the board. It's a pleasure to introduce an update on our online professional development opportunities, and this goes to Member Avalos' earlier question about basic skills and actually helping our faculty and staff up and down the state. This is really an exciting area, and Paul Steenhausen, who leads the Student Success Center under the auspices of the Foundation for California Community Colleges, is here to give you an update. Paul?
Thank you. Thank you, President Baum, Chancellor Harris, members of the board. I'm Paul Steenhausen, Executive Director of the Success Center for California Community Colleges, which was launched in August 2014 with a grant from the Kresge Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization based in Michigan. And the Success Center, as Chancellor Harris mentioned, is administered by the Foundation for California Community Colleges and is a very close collaborator with the Chancellor's Office. With me is Blaine Morrow, Project Director of Telecommunications and Technology Infrastructure Program South, TTIP South, and that's run out of Palomar College. We're here to provide a brief update on a project we're working on with a number of program partners, system partners, and that's construction of an online professional development clearinghouse, a one-stop shop of effective practices, trainings, and other resources for faculty, staff, administrators, and trustees. And this project and presentation really touches on several issues that you've discussed both yesterday and today around professional development, effective practices, use of technology. The governor mentioned that as well. So after I provide a little background, Blaine will do a demo for you of what we have so far, and we welcome your thoughts and questions. So the idea of an online professional development clearinghouse had its origins in the Student Success Task Force, which you've mentioned several times now over the past day and a half. The task force, of course, was convened by this board, the Board of Governors, back in 2011 to recommend and develop a comprehensive improvement plan for the community college system. Now, the task force called for rethinking instruction and support services and other areas provided to services, but task force members really emphasized that such changes were unlikely to occur without strong and sustained professional development for those working in the community college system, those implementing these changes. So the task force ended up making a total of 22 recommendations, one of which, and some would say the most important one, focused on the need to create a continuum of learning opportunities and multiple avenues for delivery of that professional development, including the use of technology. So after the Board of Governors adopted the Student Success Task Force report as a guiding policy framework for the system, the Chancellor's Office began working on implementation of each of those 22 recommendations. And to help implement the task force recommendation on professional development and implement the board's vision for professional development, the Chancellor's Office, led by Dean Woodyard, who's behind me, yes, there he is, formed a 30-member statewide committee on professional development. In 2013, that committee presented its findings and recommendations to the board of September 2013, I believe. And a key recommendation from that committee was to create a virtual support hub for faculty and staff and administrators, a one-stop shop for colleges to access and share information. So at that point, it was just an idea. You had an idea, a very good idea, but that idea really wasn't going to really happen without some funding. And so along came the Online Education Initiative, which the governors mentioned yesterday. The Online Education Initiative, which is funded by the state, provided seed money to TTIP South for the technical build-out of the portal. And to guide that development effort, in November 2014, project partners held a series of summits around the state to solicit input on what they'd like the clearinghouse to look like. So you can see on the slide there all the organizations that collaborated on those summits, put those summits together and presented at the summits, including the State Academic Senate, the Community College Success Network, or 3CSN, the @ONE Project, and Community College Council for Staff and Organizational Development. And as I mentioned, Kresge Foundation provided funding to the foundation and the Chancellor's Office to create a success center to help coordinate the content side of this project. So at the summits and a subsequent statewide seminar, community college participants were asked what features and functionalities they would like to see with this clearinghouse, what content would they like to see included, and what might the participants and their colleges be interested in contributing to the clearinghouse. So this slide here gives you a sample of what we heard. You know, Needs to be accessible and easy to use and searchable, a library of self-paced videos, some sort of vetting process to ensure high-quality material, a discussion board or chat room or something like that so staff can converse with each other in an easy way across campuses and across program areas. And another idea was a certifications or badging feature so staff can show the skills that they've acquired. This next slide shows you some of the content ideas that participants identified. Effective practices came up again and again and again. Effective practices around basic skills, career technical education, student equity, human resources trainings, and other mandatory statewide requirements. You know, to have that available on the portal would be helpful, but really a way for colleges to learn about what others are doing that's working, that's showing good results. We also heard about creating a comprehensive calendar of events throughout the system, a speakers bureau, so that colleges and professional development coordinators and others can identify and bring to campus these experts, and various topics around accreditation, which, as you know, several colleges continue to struggle with. And then we asked for contributions. Colleges, as they always do, stepped up and said, hey, we have some good material, we have some good programs that we'd be glad to contribute. So Blaine now will walk you through the timeline and then get you so you can see the demo.
Get this out of my way. Thanks, Paul. So the timeline that we presented at the summits in November is the same timeline that we're sticking to now. So right about now we're at the beta place, and that's kind of my job now, is to show you what we've done in the last 5 months or so. We do anticipate that by November this thing will be fully built out, at least fully enough so that the system will be using it throughout all of the colleges, faculty, staff, and classified staff. So currently we're working on, we have a document management system. We've loaded about 50 or so of various types of resources, documents, PDFs, PowerPoint presentations, etc. We're working on the social functions. Our biggest project right now is single sign-on, to make sure that people, when they sign on, are able to keep that identity so that their social features come through. They can keep track of their own professional development activities. So that's, you know, that's the basics. So let me take you to the site. This is our dev site right now. It is under construction. If this were an actual quick tour of a physical facility, I'd say please wear a hard hat, because some of this hasn't been fully built out. But some of the stuff that Paul has mentioned, particularly the calendar, for an example. This is a build out basically of a calendar. We now have more than 200 events that are actually going on as professional development activities within the system. You'll note that right now in Santa Rosa, the Association of Chief Business Officials is meeting. There is something called the Board of Governors meeting in Sacramento, a few other trainings, etc. And each of the events, if you click on them and look for more information, you get a basic description of the event. The venues and the details and a Google map of the event itself are there, along with a link to the actual website so that you can register for it or find out more about it. The events themselves can also be listed by month or day. So I'll show you a monthly view. This is an overview of basically the month of May is full of professional development activities, and the truth is so is the month of April, and so basically are all of the months. It is a searchable calendar, so if I'm going to do a shameless plug. If I do a search of online teaching, oh, sorry, little typo. You'll come across the Online Teaching Conference, which is next month in San Diego at the San Diego Convention Center. I encourage everyone to go there. We're anticipating about 700 folks.
You have nothing to do with that conference, right?
Well, it is one of our events. Now, so the calendar itself is a searchable. Again, this is a resource essentially for anybody who's involved in professional development. If you're planning an activity, you usually want to know what's going on at the same time, where's a good venue for it, where did they hold the last one, et cetera, et cetera. So many of the organizations have already appealed to me for access to the calendar so that they can plan for their next year's conference, et cetera. Basically feeding off of the calendar is a speakers directory. And the directory itself is really a directory of speakers who were at the conferences which are listed in the events calendar. So that if you're a keynoter at one of these events, you're almost automatically entered into the speakers directory. So for example, I'll choose this one just because for some reason I'm always picking on this one. But this is an idea. You get a picture, you get a basic biography, you get a link to a website, you get contact information, and if there is a presentation with a title, that presentation title is also included, so that if you're looking for a speaker, you're able to get some idea of whether or not that's a viable speaker for your event as you're planning it. Now in the resource section, I mentioned that we've loaded about 50 or so documents, PowerPoints, et cetera, and they are categorized and they are also searchable. One of the things I wanted to point out was one of the resources that we've built up. There are about 1,000 acronyms and abbreviations, which actually a little more than 1,000, which we have, and I noticed Chancellor Harris was, so I'm gonna actually, just yesterday I think, one of the questions that came up was, what the heck is this thing called an RP group? So we've actually included that in there along with several other obvious abbreviations. But when you click on the Read More link, you actually get to the site itself. So you're able to find the resource directly from there. One of the other things that we've done.
I was just saying, without going into every section of the web portal, it seems very comprehensive. What are the highlights that you want to make sure the board knows, and then we can ask some questions.
Okay, so basically the things that we know we've built out resources with acronyms, dictionary, and events calendar. We will be building out a portfolio option, which allows people to keep track of their professional development activities, document them, and that can be searchable as well. And we've also built out an opportunity for courses. One of the things that's in the course is what we're calling a Learn Academy. And this actually includes video lessons, which can be built out, can be added to, and can be assigned to groups or individuals, again, based on the admin rights. So again, that's a single sign-on. I guess that's my capsule summary. I'll take it back.
Sure, and then, so how are you going to make sure this tool gets used?
So there's, first of all, the portal will be open to all, anyone in the system. It's going to be public. It's going to be used as a tool by the Institutional Effectiveness Partnership Initiative, which has been mentioned several times. That's the new state-funded program led by Vice Chancellor Tenna and guided by a 50 or so member advisory committee. And that, the portal is going to be used by that program to assist colleges that are struggling with accreditation, student success, fiscal, and compliance issues. There's going to be, as part of this, part of the rollout, extensive awareness raising and training around the portal so that faculty, staff, administrators, and trustees can really optimize its use. And so we're going to tap into the networks we already have. State Academic Senate, for example, will be key. Classified Senate, a number of organizations that provide leadership and training and support to staff. And so we'll be working with all of those organizations so that faculty are aware of it, faculty, staff, administrators, trustees are aware of it, and know its features and know what it can do for them, how it can save them time. You know, we found a lot in our kind of listening tour. Right now, it's difficult to access information. You hear about something Long Beach is doing or Shasta College is doing, but it's difficult. It takes quite a bit of time to actually figure out what they're doing and then how they did it. And so this is going to, the idea with this portal is it's going to save all of us time. And it'll be seen as a resource for the chancellor's office to get the word out to the field. There's a lot, you know, we have 60,000 employees in the system and 112 colleges. And so it could be a really great tool for getting the word out about what a new policy is, what's this new law, what does the budget mean for the colleges. So there's just a lot of opportunities there for disseminating those effective practices and just communicating and encouraging communication and collaboration among our personnel, our human resources.
I think it'd be interesting to see if there's a way to create some kind of certificate, or I mean, that you, there's so many different resources, and if there's modules within the portal that somebody could actually at least demonstrate their use of and be incentivized so that it may be something they can add to a.
I can show you the core system that we have built in to the Learn Academy actually includes modules. Some are soft skills, some are hard skills. But once an individual actually takes the courses, certificates are compiled from that, and that would be added to the portfolio from the portal itself.
Yeah, this is a great tool for faculty. Think about if you're part-time faculty and you're interested in a full-time position, showing, you know, this is what I want to learn, and then being able to show your department chair or whoever it is what exactly you've learned, whether it's facilitating a classroom or something. Classified staff really, really like this feature as well. You know, they're interested in moving up in a lot of cases, and be able to talk to their supervisor about what skills they want to learn, competencies they want to acquire, and then to be able to actually do it and show that they do it, that they did it.
I want to open it up to other members if they have a question. Member Baca, then Member Kaur.
You know, a number of these features I think can be set there and managed well, and it's really a great tool. Some of the thing that requires more timeliness and regular oversight and input, how do you ensure that that's happening?
So the state budget, the May revision that just came out last week, includes funding for this clearinghouse as part of the governor's overall vision and the chancellor's office overall vision for creating a real system of dissemination of effective practices. So that money will be able to fund a curation, you know, curator, a librarian, really, to sort through all these materials, classify them, and keep them up to date. It's going to fund site administration and a number of other really important functionalities that need to be funded.
Yeah, and so that will include coordinating with, you know, colleges and personnel up and down the state.
That's right.
And having key individuals.
That's right.
And to respond to updates.
Yes. Yeah, it's really, really an unprecedented opportunity, and to be able to take this and supplement it with all the on-ground trainings and workshops and assistance that the system can provide.
We're going to go to Member Kaur, but before Member Kaur, what was the budget for the development of this stage of it?
It was well, what really happened was the OEI proposed Online Education Initiative proposed $2.5 million to @ONE for professional development. We said we'll take a chunk of that, if you don't mind, for seed money for the clearinghouse itself, and that was $750,000. So the rest of the money actually went to professional development from @ONE for course development, the rubric development for the online courses, and the $750,000 paid for the summits and the seed money for development of the portal itself.
Member Kaur?
Thank you. So as a student, like, I really, really like the portal. I think it's going to be beneficial for all faculty, like especially part-time faculty who maybe aren't well versed with the system and they want to be. So I know that when faculty are hired, they receive general orientation materials. I don't know how many of those are mandated. Could we put that into there, like this be part of that? Because I think it's going to help the system so much. Like, faculty are going to be able to grow and network with others, you know, attending these conferences, knowing what resources are available.
Yes, absolutely, and that's something actually on the when we talked to the colleges about what might you contribute, we heard a number of colleges saying, hey, we have some really good faculty orientation materials and a nice way for faculty to really get acclimated to the campus and culture, and to really give them tools so that they can more effectively connect and teach with students.
Yeah, I think it's really great. Thank you.
Member Avalos?
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thank you for the presentation. So a lot of times websites are just static, right? So they just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the challenge with websites, right? A lot of times you put everything on the web and you say, go.
Mm-hmm.
But are they going? So are you measuring, or tell me, what are your measurements to make sure this website is effective, and how you define success by having it?
I don't know if it might take longer to show you, but we have metrics on every aspect of the portal as well as the training sites.
For example?
I get a report every day. There are about 200 people right now who are piloting the site, many from 4CSD, some from IEPI, et cetera. Sorry. The Institutional Effectiveness something initiative.
Right.
Anyway, there are about 200 people who are using it. I get a report weekly from the website that indicates how many trainings they've taken and where they've been, so what they've used, et cetera. So we have good analytics on that. Almost too good, because if you get it too often, I myself usually discard that, but I know that I've got that information. So we'll have enough information certainly to show whether or not which trainings are the most effective, which documents are the most popular, who's resourcing them. And the other thing that we're building in, once the single sign-on, again, once you can be identified as an individual who's using this particular part of the portal, is ratings, so that we'll allow individuals to say, this is a good resource, this is a good speaker, this is a so-so, et cetera. So we'll get feedback in that way as well.
So when you say 200, is that a lot? Is that a little?
Oh, no, that's a very small group. Okay. It's really basic. It's almost a random group, not quite random, but the folks that we have presented to. We presented to the DE coordinators of 4CSD conference. The institutional effectiveness folks have been part of this whole process. And a few other, kind of friends of Blaine, I suppose. But those folks are people who have volunteered to help. So they're looking at it. But no, it's not quite ready to go live, again, because of the sign-on issues.
Okay. I guess my point is it's important to make sure you have measurements and
yes.
you have goals in terms of how many people you want on there and what they're actually looking for and what they're actually utilizing. I mean, to me, when you talk about best practices, right, I mean, it'd be ideal to have a place where you can put best practices and be able to disseminate and to see who's actually, accessing that.
Yes.
So that level of granularity would be effective and,
yes.
and efficient. So that's part of the discussion, and once this goes live, then we can have that conversation as well.
Right.
That's right. Absolutely.
Thank you, Member Avalos. Member Epstein?
Yeah, I have two questions. One is about the marketing plan for this when it does have a big launch. I mean, is there going to be sufficient resource to really spread the word about this and engage people with contests or whatever it is, and that there'll be follow-up marketing? Is that part of the plan?
Yes, absolutely, and that's right, and that's part of what the governor is proposing. Is the kind of spreading the word about the portal itself and providing support to the field and raising awareness about it. So yes.
Okay, and then the other question I had is about the individual college districts or individual colleges who may want to customize a piece of it or link to it, or is there a way to kind of create a seamless transition to a local college site, or for them to add content that's and guide their people who work for them to the site?
It's a good thought. I can't say that. I can't say how that would look right now. I can tell you that we can customize in this sense. I can make it possible for, let's say, a professional development coordinator or an HR director or a department chair at any individual college to say, these are trainings that I think you should take, and to assign those to individuals. Assign in the sense of sending a reminder, here's a link, go to it. And then to keep track of that progress. That we've built in. We haven't really looked at institutions as users for the portal.
We have heard from some colleges that say, hey, we have our own website on our campus. Why don't we just connect with yours, or just have it integrate fully? And so that's something we're certainly looking at and we'd like to do. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and just when I used to work at PBS, we had a similar situation. We had, we were the mothership with all these individual stations, and there was always a lot of interest in those stations to try and have them. You could sign on as a member of the station, and it would create certain links. I mean, and it expanded over time. It's just something to think about as you expand this thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the update on that, and as Member Avalos and Member Epstein indicated, we'd love to hear about it after it's launched and hear how it's going.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to board member reports, and that's item 3.8 on our agenda. We'll start with Member Malumed.
Great, thank you. I wanted to talk about one subject in particular that I've gotten very excited about lately. I had a chance to go to Selma for the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and it was a pilgrimage led by Congressman John Lewis. And it inspired in me the need to mobilize people to vote and our students. So I wanted to mention a few things and sort of tell you where I'm heading. The Higher Education Act of 1965, I did not know this, requires colleges and universities that get public money to provide registration information and access to individual voter registration forms. And a lot of our colleges are not doing it. Also, there was a California task force on civic learning recently, and it said that schools need to reach out to assist in civil education and engagement. And some of the groups I've talked to said that California students are not exercising their right to vote, and it's because of a lack of information, which they just stated right here, which is hard to believe. There's so much information out there, not a lack of interest. So there is a need for college teachers and administrators to inform and engage students so they can overcome barriers to registering and voting. There is something called the Campus Vote Project, and they are affiliated with the Fair Elections Legal Network that is back in Washington, D.C. So I've had a chance to meet them, talk to them, find out who they are. They have scheduled a meeting with our chancellor because I don't really know how we can utilize what they do, but there's got to be some intersection. And actually, 2 of our colleges are involved. One of them is the LA Trade Technical College, and the other one is De Anza College. And they've created student voting websites as a part of their official website. So some of the things that can be done, voter registration forms can be given at orientation, student information websites with links to registration, all campus reminder emails on deadlines and polling places, perhaps polling places on campuses or early voting sites, and student poll worker programs. So I'm excited about this. I also found out that young voters, which is 18 to 29-year-olds, have the numbers, 24% of the voting population, to make change, but they have to vote to make that happen. So that's my issue that I've become excited about and want to be involved with. So I thought I'd share that.
Thank you. Member Van Loon.
Yeah, so over the past couple of months, I've been privileged enough to attend a couple events on behalf of the students. I attended the SSCCC's May meeting as well as the General Assembly in Ontario. It's always great getting that many students, in this case I believe over 500 students, in one venue. Oftentimes when you're representing such a large constituency, it's very hard, and a diverse constituency, it's very hard to get the proper and accurate outlook, or the cumulative outlook, and it was good to be able to have them articulate their policy platform as a whole and as a state. It was very informative. Also, in response to some of the things stated by Member Malumed, oftentimes student governments in their bylaws require student governments to hold a voter registration event at least once in an election year. So that's a bandage solution, I would say, but there are those mechanisms present, probably scattered throughout our system, but it is actually imperative for us to expand those services to our students. I completely concur. And lastly, this will be my final Board of Governors meeting concluding my appointment. I'd just like to thank the governor for the appointment and the opportunity to serve on behalf of the students. And it's really been a privilege to serve alongside my fellow members here in the Chancellor's office, being a part of a system that's truly revolutionizing the landscape of public higher ed, not only in California, but across the nation and the world. And yet again, I can't emphasize the honor that I feel to be a part of it and immerse myself within that, and I will most definitely take the experience along with me throughout the rest of my career. So thank you guys.
Thank you. We're very proud of you and look forward to hearing about your next chapter at Yale University. So that's fantastic. Member Avalos?
Yeah, thank you. So I made a couple site visits over the past couple months. One was, it was a joint visit between Fresno State and Fresno Community College. Trustee Hugo Morales and I went to Fresno State and to Fresno City College. It was actually my first time at Fresno City College, which was a great experience. So did that, and then also went over to Hartnell Community College and to CSU Monterey. Did a site visit there. Met with the students as part of this program, and I mentioned this before, which is it's called the CSIT3. It's a program. It's a joint program which basically a student spends 18 months at the Community College Hartnell, 18 months at CSU Monterey, gets a 3-year, completes their degree in 3 years in computer science. Revolutionary,
Fantastic.
right? Revolutionary. It's taking kids who are, blue collar in cohorts of 30 from Salinas Valley, and putting them through the process. And so their first cohort is at CSU Monterey, doing internships this year. This summer at companies such as Salesforce, Uber, Allstate, and other recognized companies. So, they're getting internships now, which is great. And there's 2 more cohorts behind them. So it was great. Met with the students, talked to them, and I totally believe in this program. I was also a member of this Innovation for Higher Education. And Monterey, with Hartnell, received $8 million in awards of the $50 million. This program in particular received $5 million. So, it's a highlight. It's a big deal. And, on a national scale, I think this program has legs, right? And so I'd love to see what we can do to foster this type of innovation and get behind it statewide. Because if Salinas and Hartnell and CSU Monterey is doing it, why can't we do it statewide? So that's my, my recommendation. But my, charter and really my charge for you all is to really think about, how we can do this elsewhere. So that was great. Also, I met a gentleman by the name of DJ Patel. I don't know if you all know who that is. He is the chief data scientist for the White House. First person in that role, and he went through community college to get his PhD. And what his role is, he mentions, if it wasn't for community college, he wouldn't be the person he is today, and it gave him his second chance. And another highlight of an example of someone who went through community college and made a huge difference. And when I talked to him, he's like, whatever we can do to tell my story, I'm happy to do it. So that's something that's there. And with that, looking forward, I do have a tour of Shasta College next week, going up there with Assemblyman Dolly. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Avalos. Member Conway.
Well, it's been very interesting and informative for my very first meeting. And thank you for the credit of getting the governor here, which totally didn't happen, but I did text him and thank him for making my first meeting very memorable. But I have a new appreciation for all the work that goes into our community college system. And in order to be brief, which I'm not always, I'm ready to go back to school. I mean, this is exciting stuff. And I'm serious. I haven't decided what I'm going to be when I grow up. But if this presentations I've seen and heard today, I'm really ready to go. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Conway. Member
Well,
Baca.
first of all, I want to congratulate and welcome Member Shaw and Member Conway. And it's great to have you here. I've attended a number of events, and I plan to attend a number in June, but just to highlight a couple, I did join the Chancellor and Keitha and others at Chancellor Circle last week at LA City College, and thanks to President Martinez and Chancellor Rodriguez for their hospitality there. And I also met with Region 8, this is Orange County, LA County veterans counselors and staff, and they're constantly working on the issues that are related to veterans. And as some of you know, this next summit that we hold will be in March of 2016, and I don't think that the site has been finalized yet, but hopefully we'll get some sponsors to back us up on that. But it's always a great event because various staff is able to come together and discuss current issues and best practices and so forth. Let's see. There was one other thing. Oh yes, one other thing I want to follow up on Member Malumed and Member Van Loon's discussion on voting, and I hope to spend some time with David Morrison and Julie Bornstein this summer on civic engagement and the Constitution, because in getting students out to vote, I think it's very important for them to recognize what the elements are that are behind this, and I think that makes them not only desirous to vote, but also better citizens, certainly. So I hope to spend some time with that. And in talking about the Academic Senate, I was very pleased that there's going to be additional funding for the Academic Senate. For those of you that among us that has not attended the plenary session, which I attended last month in Burlingame, I really strongly encourage you to do so, because then you can see more directly the work that the faculty in the state has done, which is, and a little taste of it was Member Balansky was getting into the questions and nitty-gritty of some of the stuff that's being done with CTE, which is critically important. A lot of that work comes out of the Academic Senate, and so whether it's transfer, student success, or the current work that we're doing with Career Tech, the value and the input out of the Academic Senate is invaluable. It wouldn't happen without their work. So I just wanted to mention that. So hopefully it stays on the budget as we proceed forth to finalizing it, because that is money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Corr.
Oh, thank you. So the last 2 months have been actually really productive. I was able to attend Governor Brown's Women in Leadership event, and I was able to connect with the UC Regent, and we were able to discuss the importance that CTE has and the impact it's going to make on the future generations. So it's really great to see other systems in a lot, they believe in what we're doing and we believe in what they're doing. So that connection was really great to have. I was able to attend 2 student senate meetings. They filed for incorporation as a 501c3, and the student reps are here, and I'm sure they'll be explaining that more into detail. Another event that I went to was a spring General Assembly. That's where 112 community colleges are invited, the student bodies, to propose resolutions, changes they want to initiate. Some of the biggest issues that were brought to light were opening more resources centers on campus, such as for AB 540 students, advocating for ESL students, increasing financial aid, sustainability, and as well as supporting AB 288 and AB 770, which is college and career pathways and basic skills innovation. So a lot of students are taking it upon themselves to bring these initiatives onto campus, and I was really happy to serve as any resource of anything that they would need. So that was a really great experience. I also, something really cool that happened, I received a letter from I don't know how to Postas College.
Chabolas Positas.
Positas College. So their student body actually invited me onto campus they wanted to help engage in what I do as a student rep, and they want to contribute to what the board does. And I think as we were talking about the workforce meetings, I really want to bring more student voices, more student participation onto these meetings, go to these campuses and encourage that, because students do want to participate in the changes that will be made, and that's something I really look forward to doing. And it was really great to hear that the baccalaureate degrees passed, especially with Santa Monica and Rio Hondo. I was able to attend a foundation event for Santa Monica, and the president and their associated student body was really, really excited about the concept of having that onto their campus. And something I'm really focused on is more students becoming aware of the board. For the Student Senate, there is a communications officer who releases a board newsletter, per se, like recapping what the board's done, and it gets sent through the listserv for any student that registers for it. And I think that's a great resource, letting students know what changes are being made, how they can contribute, talking to their local board of trustees and faculty. So that's something I've been working with. And an experience I had, so I was part of my student body, and my vice president is now the student trustee, and he received a student trustee handbook that was written by another student trustee before him. And it was really great. It wasn't very long. It was just a few pages of policies you should know, abbreviations and acronyms. And I know Colin is leaving the board, and there still will be a new trustee, and that's something I really want to create as a student handbook for the Board of Governors member. When I got into office, Bryce gave me like a really great introduction of what the board does and an orientation, but the student perspective is very different. The meetings they should be attending are a bit different as well, because there are engaging students. So that's something I look forward to creating in the next 2 months. Hopefully I'll have like a draft or an outline that I'll be able to present to the chancellor's office or the board, and we can get that rolling. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Shaw.
Well, I've enjoyed the first meeting also, even though I'm a night person, so I don't get up at 6 o'clock. But anyway, it's been an exciting time, an interesting time. I've had an opportunity to speak with 2 college presidents, Larry Frank, everybody knows Larry Frank, in the LA area, Trade Tech, and then also a former colleague of mine, someone I served with under Mayor Reardon. Todd Burnett is the president of Saddleback College, so he had lunch with me. I've also had an opportunity to talk to Linda Wah, who's a part of this workforce development effort, and she's also a former city employee. And I've also tried to talk with administrative staff and also some faculty in and around LA, just to get a sense of all the levels, get the big picture sense. So I'll continue to do that in the summer and have more to report at our next meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Member Epstein.
Well, first I want to kind of pay my respects to Member Von Loon. I remember when I first laid eyes on him, I said, who is this really young-looking guy who seems a little uncomfortable in his black suit and white shirt? And I've just been really impressed with the kind of thoughtful contributions you've made at the board and some of our political discussions, and I'm really proud that you got into Yale and that you're going to have that opportunity. So we'll miss you, and but it looks like Member Corr is right in your wake here, making big contributions herself. So looking forward to the next student member as well. One thing I did, I attended a dinner put on by the Campaign for Free College Tuition that featured Undersecretary of Education Ted Mitchell, Lieutenant Governor Newsom, and even Insurance Commissioner Dave Jones for some reason. And we had a very robust conversation. The director of that organization is actually sitting in the audience. I think he's going to be making a comment here. But that was a really interesting opportunity to hear what others are trying to do to kind of help make it more affordable for every community college student in California and around the country. I also I helped contact the office of Jill Biden when she was interested in coming out and visiting community college. She ended up coming to De Anza College last month. And finally, I also want to welcome the new board members, Member Conway, Member Shaw, and I look forward to seeing Jennifer Perry here, who is an old acquaintance of mine. I recommended her to the governor's office, and I think she'll make a great contribution when she comes to the next meeting.
Thank you, Member Volinsky.
I too want to welcome the 2 new members to the board. It's great, and to say congratulations on my own to Colin for being admitted to Yale. It'll be a good experience. I've had the opportunity to attend a few events, and I'll just report them out, because I don't always get to go to one of them because of location many times, but I did get to attend the Articulation Officers Conference this year because it was in Berkeley, which helped. There's always an advantage to meeting people face to face, It's one thing to email other articulation officers in the UC and the CSU system or to call them on the phone. It's a very different experience to talk to people face to face and build good working relationships. The Associate Vice Chancellor Vaughn gave me the opportunity to attend one day of a CTE conference in San Francisco, and it was really well worth attending because I'm not necessarily the most knowledgeable about all the CTE options and possibilities. In just the one day, the amount of information was excellent. I did attend the State Senate Spring Plenary. Again, it's nice to get together with people from across the state and talk and find out what's going on. And David and Julie have been elected again and will provide presidential and vice presidential leadership for another year. And a friend of mine who I work with got an invitation to the Chancellor's Circle, and so I accompanied her to the one at Consumnes River, and it was really good to be able to do that. And I would just simply note that Thursday night, Berkeley City College will hold its graduation, and as usual, it will be at Zellerbach on the UC Berkeley campus.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Member Belansky. Member Reed?
I attended some activities at both the colleges, Sequoias and Porterville College, and enjoyed those, but I'll leave that as my report for the day.
Thank you. Vice President Estolano?
I am what stands between you and lunch, except for public comment. So I'll be brief. One, don't forget Constitution Day on September 17th, in accordance with board member Malumit's interest. I think we might want to figure out something to do. I've had the pleasure of doing 3 events associated with our duties here. One is attending the Southern California Leadership Council, and the Vice Chancellor had a photo of that to prove that I was there. We both had an opportunity to present, and I think impressed them with the breadth and depth of what we're trying to do at the community colleges regarding CTE. Secondly, I had an opportunity to spend about 2 hours with Larry Frank, the president of LA Trade Tech, and his 3 amazing vice presidents for administration, for academic and workforce development. They put them together there. And then for student services. It was very inspiring. They're really trying to blow up the boxes there, and they really are like the model program around workforce development and CTE. And then lastly, last week I presented at California Forward at one of their meetings in Los Angeles, again to talk about what we're doing, not just on the task force, but more generally issues of workforce development and the importance of integrating that into an overall economic development strategy for our regions in California. So that's what I've been up to. Welcome, board members Shaw and Conway. I really look forward to getting to know you, board member Conway, and Valerie is one of my oldest friends. We just decided that we've known each other for 26 years. Scary. And lastly, Colin, I will miss you deeply. I've really enjoyed getting to meet you. I'm very proud of you, not just getting admitted to Yale, but UC Berkeley as well.
Thank you, Vice President Estolano. Public forum. Do we have any members of the public that wish to address the board?
We have 2 members, David Morse and Morley Winogrand.
President Baum, Chancellor Harris, and members, I too will try to be brief, but the first thing I wanted to do was to acknowledge Member Baca's comments on the Senate's budget augmentation request and say thank you very much for that, and to acknowledge and thank First Vice Chancellor Dan Troy for his help in getting that into the legislature's discussions, and also Jonathan Lightman from FAC, who has been incredibly helpful and supportive of the Academic Senate. So we work very, very well with FAC, and I really want to acknowledge Jonathan's help with getting that moved forward for us. I was going to mention the fact that Julie and I had been reelected as president and vice president, and Member Belansky stole my thunder. So, so we will be here for another year to be able to work with you, and we're both looking forward to that. And finally, at the beginning of the meeting, I put out, Julie and I put out 2 things for you, so we come bearing gifts again. The first being our Academic Senate Annual Report, just a rundown of the various activities and achievements of the Academic Senate in the last year, just to inform you of the work that we do. And any questions or anything on any of that, we would be happy to talk with you about and answer. And the other is the lapel pins that we put out for you. Those were created through funding from our Academic Senate Foundation and are part of a fundraising effort for our foundation. But we wanted each of you to have one of those. So if we missed anybody with either of those two items, let me know and we'll be certain to get them to you. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, President Morris.
Okay, we have Mark Winograd. I mean, sorry. There is a city manager named Mark Winograd. Yeah, it's not you. Morley Winograd, and then Omar Paz following.
Good morning, and I'll try and keep it in the morning. To all of you, I'm Morley Winograd. I'm the president and CEO of a nonprofit called the Campaign for Free College Tuition. We were formed just about a year ago, and at the time of our formation as a bipartisan effort to eliminate cost as a barrier to attendance at higher education, we met with a lot of skepticism. That is no longer the case. In the course of a year, through our efforts and others, particularly President Obama, the subject of free college tuition is now a central part of the nation's political debate. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage this board to join the debate, and in fact, potentially to lead it, as California should. I am a resident of Arcadia, California. I'm almost a native Californian. I've only been here 25 years, so I guess it's pretty close. And I don't know if you all realize how much the nation looks to California for, hello there, looks to California for guidance and leadership on the subject of higher education. Clearly, the community college campuses, as you know, are a major force in the nation's approach to that particular higher education experience, that uniquely American experience in higher education. And you all are in charge as members of the board and as its leaders in taking on the single most important challenge that faces this country. And that is how to bring everyone into the world of higher education and future success. Not a few, not in the old John F. Kennedy phrase, the best and the brightest, but everyone who can be as good and as successful as their innate human ability will allow them to be. Nobody else in the world tries to do this. This is the country that is founded on the idea that everybody needs to be both an informed citizen and a skilled worker in order for the country to succeed. And we have gone, unfortunately, in the wrong direction recently in ideas on how to make sure that happens. And our country will pay a dear price. And individual members who are students who are burdened with student debt and inaccessible higher education are paying individual burdens that we can no longer afford to have as a nation. So Tom referenced a dinner we put together to try and encourage attention to this issue last month in California specifically. We have the great advantage of having Undersecretary Mitchell come to that powerful position in the administration with a long background and therefore a thorough understanding of this state and its opportunities. We held a summit the next morning that Vince Stewart was kind enough to represent this organization at in discussing how easy it would be to make our state's community colleges free. You already make them free for about 2/3 of the students. And there's only a few $100 million, which in California you can actually put the word few in front of 100 million, that the system collects in tuition from its students. Changing that process so that there's a promise up front to our state students that if they apply themselves and graduate from high school, they can attend a community college of their choice without any tuition cost is not that hard to do. Right now we're engaged in a bureaucratic process of BOG waivers and if you do this and take care of that, then this will happen, which is very difficult to communicate to our high school and even middle school populations.
Morley, you're almost out of time.
By contrast, the state of Tennessee reversed that and made community colleges free. And in doing so, 90% of the students in Tennessee decided to apply for community college. They'll have a 25% increase in their community college population in this fall term. We could do that here in California with leadership from this body. Our organization is dedicated to making this happen across the country, and we would welcome your leadership and your involvement in having California be the catalyst that makes it true for everyone eventually and for the students of California almost immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Morley. Did Member Shaw, you had a quick
I
comment,
just had a
but we
question.
have another.
You know, when I saw you in the audience, I remembered you.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah, and I was the president of Board of Public Works under Hahn, and you were a consultant with Mayor Hahn.
Yes, I was.
I just have one question for you. Who funds your nonprofit?
We have only individual contributions. We are seeking foundations contributions, but at the moment, it is strictly people of my age who have done well in life and want to give something back and think that this generation needs free community.
Okay, we have to continue with public comment.
Thank you.
Omar? Pat? Pause. Omar Paz.
Hard to follow that one up. I'd like that too. So I do want to thank our student board members for your service. So thank you and congratulations, Colin. Thank you, Nate. You've been doing a wonderful job on behalf of students. So I just wanted to say that up front. And just report a little bit on what the SCCC's been up to. As was mentioned earlier, we had our spring General Assembly where we did have many resolutions passed. And then we had kind of a revision and kind of a little bumpy road process with our Constitution, which will take a little bit more time with that and developing our organization further and presenting that in the fall. And with that, we just wanted to update that we have undergone the process of filing as a nonprofit, and we are looking forward to working with the Chancellor's office in developing kind of a new structure and a new future for this organization so that students can be better equipped to represent their voice in the shared governance process as well as this body. And I'd also like to encourage the Board of Governors just in your efforts to do a lot of local outreach. So just hearing your reports, it's astounding the amount of work you do and connections you make, and I really appreciate that. But I'd also like to see how we can bridge those connections with local student leaders, whether it be student governments or through our organization and the conferences we hold as well. We'd like to see that across the board for many organizations. So I'm glad to hear the attendance at the Academic Senate's plenary. The Classified Senate for CS is having their statewide leadership summit at Lake Tahoe Grandly Bakken Resort on Friday, June 5th. And just seeing how we can get a little bit more visiting and collaboration between the different bodies. So just with that, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you and welcome. We're delighted to work with you going forward. Just for new business, I just want to remind everybody we will reconvene in July. I believe July 20th is our next meeting, and then mark your calendar for September 20th, the Monday meeting, as opposed to the Tuesday meeting. And the last order of business in new business is we also need to acknowledge the reappointment of Gary Reed to this board. And he is now the longest serving member of this board, and we're delighted that the governor had the wisdom to. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, Debbie. Oh my gosh.
Really?
April, end of April.
I'll be.
So, but Gary and Debbie have created a long tradition of service to this Board of Governors, and we're delighted that Gary has been reappointed. So, congratulations, Gary. And with that, we're adjourned until our July meeting.